Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the session on the use of artificial intelligence in climate change evaluations. My name is Debbie Menezes, and I'm the chair of the Adaptation Fund's Technical Evaluation Reference Group. So the topic that we're about to discuss today is relevant as we increasingly recognize the potential of artificial intelligence as a powerful tool in improving climate evaluations. And if used responsibly and sustainably, better and more timely evidence and lessons could help to inform policies and programs for climate action. At COP26, the four multilateral climate funds, that's the Adaptation Fund, the Climate Investment Funds, the Global Environment Facility, and the Green Climate Fund, jointly committed to work together to accelerate the transition to a green, inclusive, and resilient economy. In that spirit, the evaluation units of the four climate funds have been working together to generate evidence and share lessons from our work. It is my pleasure to introduce experts from the four evaluation units today who will enrich our discussions. We have with us Anupam Anand, Senior Evaluation Officer of the Global Environment Facility of the Independent Evaluation Unit, Martin Prowse, Evaluation Specialist of the Green Climate Fund's IEU, Mike Ward, who leads the Evaluation and Learning Unit of the Climate Investment Fund, and Vladislav Arnaudov, who's the Secretariat Coordinator of the Adaptation Fund's Technical Evaluation Reference Group. So we're going to start with a short presentation of the findings of a study that has been jointly conducted by the four evaluation units on the potential opportunities and risks associated with using artificial intelligence in climate evaluation. This will be followed by a panel discussion on plans to integrate artificial intelligence into climate evaluations. And we will also have an opportunity for a little bit of question and answers. So please do keep your questions ready. This event is being live streamed and the recording will also be made available online. Thank you. I would now like to invite Vladislav Arnaudov, Vlad, to make the presentation of the study that the four funds have been doing jointly. Thank you. Vlad, over to you.
Thank you, Debbie, and very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us at the hub of the four funds here at COP29. I just want to confirm that all of you can hear me well. Good. My name is Vlad Arnaudov, as Debbie already introduced me, and I'm the Secretariat Coordinator of the AF-TERG. So for the next 25 to 30 minutes, I'll take you through the study that we jointly conducted over the past 7 months. Some of you might have seen also links to a brief that was developed based on the study. And in a month or so, we'll actually release the entire study as well, so you can see it. But today, I want to provide you an overview of the opportunities that exist for climate change evaluations. And it will be very good to hear also your comments and observations during the Q&A session. So let me start with the background of this study. So as I said, it was jointly commissioned by the evaluation units of the four funds. We just finalized it in September 2024. And the overall idea was to explore the potential of the use of AI in evaluations, particularly climate change evaluations. Now, before I continue further, I want to check with all of you. How many of you are evaluators? Okay, I can see 1, 2, 3. There is actually a fourth one who is not raising his hand as well. So these are all evaluators here. How many of you, this is my second question now, how many of you have used AI in your daily work? Okay, we have more people. Good, good. Okay, and I hope you don't imagine that AI is something like the Terminator series. No, good. Okay, so we are also good there. So the objectives of the presentation today is to really assess the AI potential in climate change evaluations, demystify some of the discussions that are going around there, identify the opportunities, talk about the risks, and also provide insights for future applications of AI in evaluations. So what was the methodology that we used for this study? I want to make sure that we are all aware that this was a scoping study. So we basically looked at what is available across different organizations at the moment. So the consultant who worked with us, this was Eleanor Bajraktari, a great person who committed a lot of time and resources on this. He conducted a literature review. There were 19 semi-structured interviews. We mainly focus on partner entities from the UN system and also the MDB. So some of the findings also come from that particular side. And there was also an online survey. We got 32 respondents there. Now, there is a cautionary note. AI is a very broad term. That's why I asked you also about the Terminator series. And there are diverse tools and methods. So let's keep that in mind. The findings that we are going to share with you are based on what we got at September 2024. So some things might have changed after that. So keep that in mind as well. And when we use AI, no matter what I'm going to tell you now, just keep in mind that this is still a tool that requires ongoing supervision and also adaptation to the needs of each organization or individual that is using it. So let's go to the potential applications of AI. So I'll take you briefly through that slide. And we structured the presentation across the different stages of evaluation. So we'll talk about how AI can be used in design of evaluation, implementation of evaluation, quality control, so use and dissemination of findings and learnings. So let's start from the design phase and the areas where we saw potential application. And that includes synthesis of evidence. I think a lot of us conduct synthesis studies in the evaluative world, methodological support, stakeholder analysis and engagement, and also risk assessment and resource allocation. And we'll start from the synthesis and see what exactly AI can help us with. So one thing which is pretty straightforward, AI can help us with the literature review. What you hear down the presentation is that AI is capable of analyzing large volumes of data, not only numerical data, but also word data. So AI is capable of the rapid scanning and analysis of vast academic literature. It can identify key themes, trends, and knowledge gaps. AI can also identify best practices based on previous evaluations and outcomes. It can identify methodologies in similar contexts. It can provide you some context-specific insights, and also it can conduct a trend analysis. As you can see, quite a lot of things that are time incentive and resource incentive when any of us start conducting evaluation. Now, AI can also help you with the methodology of your evaluation. So it can help you recommend methodologies by suggesting appropriate methodology based on what has been done and up to now and based on the evaluation questions and the context. And it can also analyze the strengths and weaknesses of different methodologies. It can help you with the sample size and power calculations. I remember that somebody told me a few years ago, oh, when you do a sample size calculation, you need a PhD student. I didn't completely agree with that, but definitely AI can help you with that. It can help you also with the mixed method design and the counterfactual design. Also some very important things. Now, this is an interesting slide because AI can help you also in an unexpected area, which is the stakeholder analysis and engagement planning. All of us, when we conduct evaluations, we want to see who are actually the right stakeholders. And I'm sure you're aware of cases in the past, and maybe you have that experience personally when some stakeholders are omitted or not the right stakeholders are included. But you can use AI to help you with the stakeholder mapping and also to optimize the engagement by coming up with an improved strategy for stakeholder engagement. And finally, in the design phase, AI can help you with the risk assessment and also resource allocation. So you can have some predictive risk analysis. For example, you can look at the historical data of similar evaluations, understand what worked well, what not. It can come up with some mitigation strategies and recommendations, resource optimization, and there are also opportunities for timeline optimization. As you can see, AI can do a lot of things that evaluators are doing already. Now, you have designed your evaluation, you commissioned it. AIs unfortunately cannot commission evaluation. It still has to be done by us. But the next stage where you can use AI is actually the implementation phase. And AI is good at text analysis, data aggregation, survey design administration, geospatial analysis. And Anupam actually can tell you a lot about that from his experience later, social media and web analytics, and also automated reporting. So what can AI do? Can actually do text analysis again, and also coding. One area where I found AI extremely useful, and this is what also the study showed, was the sentiment analysis. This is another very time and resource consuming area. And what we know is that sentiment analysis can always be quite biased, especially when humans do it. Now, there was some research showing that AI can sometimes provide you with more comprehensive and less biased sentiment analysis compared to humans. So it can help with determination of stakeholder sentiment and also tracking changes of attitude over time. And it can also help you with the summarization, like generation of concise summaries from lengthy documents. AI can help also in data aggregation and monitoring, such as automatic data collection, data integration and aggregation, real-time monitoring and analysis, and predictive analysis as well. So on the last one, for example, you can look at historical data, and AI can come with an estimation of some of the future trends, and also in this way support productive decision-making and risk management. Now, I want you to keep that in mind, by the way, because it is going to come up later in the discussion. And also, it can help you with the survey design and administration, like adaptive questioning. They can also AI can help with natural language interfaces and also response quality control. Actually, the other day, somebody approached me and said that they have a company that offers chatbots which can basically conduct on behalf of the evaluator a survey. So they can record, they can ask the questions, they can record all the answers, and then all of that information can be analyzed and you can get a summary from that survey. So this already exists. This is not science fiction. And then AI can also help you with the response quality control, such as flagging in real-time inconsistencies and unlikely responses, or immediate clarification or validation of responses. Geospatial analysis is another area. To some of us, it seems as a quite demanding task, and you need to be trained to actually do that. And AI can help you with that work. It can, by analyzing images and tracking changes in land use, and this is very much relevant in climate change evaluation, vegetation cover, and especially for environment and climate change evaluations, this is a crucial part where AI can support you. And also AI can help you with the GIS data integration. What else AI can do? Some of us like sitting in front of the computer and checking what posts have been there and what media has published on a particular topic. You know that after you sit in front of the computer for maybe an hour or 2 hours, you get very tired and you still don't get much work done. Well, AI is there, and it can also help you with social network analysis. It can help you also with a web traffic analysis. It can extract information from the global web and summarize that information for you. And another thing it can do is automated report preparation. So AI can help during the implementation phase, based on all the information you feed in, to compile reports. And also it can do like multilingual reporting. So basically it can do the translation for the different stakeholders. I can already see like many of our tasks, everything that we are doing, are being taken over by AI. Now, AI is important not only in these two phases, but also in the quality control phase. So AI can help us with error detection, standard enforcement, statistical validation. It can help you with plagiarism, bias detection as well, and quality scoring and benchmarking. And I think these are things that are also very important to us as evaluators when we deliver our findings and present information. I won't go into a lot of details on the standard enforcement, but if you provide particular checklists to the AI against which you want information to be checked, AI can actually do that information. It can check whether a methodology is being adhered to, standardize the reporting, and do some real-time feedback. There is an error detection, and AI can look at anomaly detection, consistencies. It can validate data completeness. It can do syntax and semantic analysis, for example. And also it can do statistic validation, like checking whether samples are representative, statistical power is there, assumptions, effective size calculation. And this is one that I like. I actually use this also when I was teaching my students for submitting exams. This is a plagiarism detection. Whether something is your own finding and this is information that you provided based on an analysis, or you're just quoting somebody and you want to look cool, well, this is what AI can also check. Bias. This is another very important thing. And we'll talk about this a little bit later, but AI as a tool, it's a machine at the end of the day, and it is trained. So you can also train AI to identify biases based on language, data biases, and methodological biases. So this is one area where AI is very powerful, but also this is area where AI is dangerous, because depending on how you train AI, you can actually end up with also biased results. And there is a quality scoring and benchmarking that AI can do. So this is another key part. Finally, AI can be used in the dissemination phase, like knowledge management. So you completed an evaluation, you want to share those findings. Knowledge management AI can help you. Tailored reporting, interactive data and visualization, synthesis of results. All of this thing is something that AI can also help you. For example, AI can help you with meta-analysis, cross-sector insight, trend analysis, and also contextual analysis. It can do some intelligent indexing and tagging. It can do automated literature review, personalized knowledge retrieval, and dynamic knowledge bases. And where AI is really powerful are the cases when you have huge amount of data, because if you're talking about something small, probably we can do it equally fast. But when you're talking about processing large volumes of data in the field of knowledge management, AI can be your friend. And when we talk about knowledge dissemination, I think we heard a story that happened in this COP when a particular report, which was highly scientific, was presented to the negotiators and actually turned out very difficult to reach. And AI can actually help in cases like this to redo the work based on a particular audience. Of course, you have to help AI identify what the audience is and what exactly the audience would like to see. So this is the content customization. It can do multi-content generation. So basically, the same report can be presented to different audiences, just looking at, but adjusted to that. The interactive data visualization, this is very powerful for users, and AI can help you do that visualization. And it can finally help you to track the impact and get feedback from all the work that you have done. So I think by this point of time, all of you are convinced that people sitting on this panel are going to be fired very soon, and we're going to be knocking on your door, asking for new jobs, because AI is going to take over evaluations and there are going to be no need for evaluators. Do you think so? No, good. That is what I also believe to be the case, because all of the nice things that AI can do, it can do only if it is properly supervised and properly trained by humans. So what you saw here was the potential uses that came from the different discussions that we had. But there are also various risks and mitigation strategies that we have to focus on. So now I'm going to explain why we are not going to be fired, at least for the next 5 years, until we train AI so well that it can actually take over. So the study identified several challenges and risks, and we'll talk about this also during the panel discussion, but there are technical challenges. For example, data quality and bias issue. AI can produce any results based on what you feed as inputs to it. So if you don't provide like a good data, AI is not going to give you good results. If you train your AI only with a particular set of thinking or norm or particular base of philosophy, it is going to generate a bias. And you also, you have to be able to check what results actually AI has given. So there is also the issue with accuracy and reliability. And many examples from the past show that AI can give you good feedback or good results, but sometimes it can also hallucinate. I think we have heard about that. So this is one challenge that requires a lot of work from now on. The ethical concerns, privacy, data protection, what information gets into AI, you cannot control what happens with this information and how that is going to be used. So you have this black box approach. Also, something very important, the skills and the capacity building needs. Some of you already raised your hands at the beginning of this event that you can use AI or you have used AI. Others were very silent. And this is not a bad thing. The reality is that not everybody at the moment in the evaluation profession or in many other professions is trained to properly use AI. So we have to think about this. We have to think also whether we can rely on technology too much or not. And there are the methodological challenges about contextual understanding of the limitation. So we came up with different mitigation strategies here. Again, we can talk more about this, but there is a need for capacity building, for training, for promoting transparency, and strong data protocols, privacy, security, and at the end of the day, making sure that we know how we're using AI and control its use. So I'm coming to the end of our presentation. And as this study was about climate change evaluation, it was also for the 4 funds that are represented here. The consultant came up with some recommendations for us, including the strategic approach, the governance, the capacity building and implementation. But the recommendations were coming also from the need to basically take a gradual approach to how we introduce AI. Be comfortable with using it, see what exactly our needs are, and based on that, move forward. So do continuous assessment of the AI impact and what is the value added. And this is also an important point because at some stages you may see that you can actually get better results doing things yourself than AI. And we got also some nice recommendations for short-term actions, such as maintain and institutionalize AI, look at a long-term governance framework and a validation framework. Make sure that we do all of this work by engaging external stakeholders, establish partnership, make sure that we fully understand what is happening in the industry, and also make sure that we prioritize the ethics and sustainability of AI. So look at data, privacy criteria, have AI guidelines, and also review continuously and regularly how AI is used. So this is very briefly what the study found out. We are not going to be fired for sure, at least for a while. But as you saw from this presentation, AI presents a huge opportunity for us. And we're going to talk about this today, what exactly these opportunities are. Also, it presents risks and challenges. So we'll also go into this. So with that mindset, it's important to approach it and to move forward. So I will stop here and give the floor back to Debbie. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vlad. Thank you for that very clear and comprehensive presentation of the study and where we've got to so far. And I'm assuming that the study will become available online at some point for people to read that in more detail, right? So thank you. It seems like AI can do everything except bring you a good cup of coffee, right? Right? Okay. Okay, on that note, so we're at a climate change conference here. And Mike, I'd like to turn to you first and ask you, in your view, is the role of AI more prominent in climate change evaluations as compared to general evaluations in sustainable development? Is there a difference? What's your view on that?
Thanks, Debbie, and yeah, thanks everybody for being here. It's nice to share this. I'm looking very forward to the Q&A session and to open up some of the issues. The kind of implications for AI, particularly as we start to work with climate change evaluations, I'd like to pick up on four main areas. The one is the contextual nature of climate change, the way it will play out in different ways in different situations. The second one is the complexity of the issues. So the fact that as we evaluate, we're evaluating very kind of complex systems. The third area I want to touch on is around the contested nature of this work. So there are different viewpoints, there are different interests, and what that will mean for evaluation. And then thirdly, to look at the emergent nature of the climate change crisis, the fact that it's changing over time quite rapidly. So just in terms of contextuality, I think as we work with AI on evaluations, we're going to need to be really careful because so much of the existing work, so for example, we've done some big evaluations on just transitions. So much of the existing work on just transition has been done in the global north. And so as the AI kind of accesses data, it's picking up data from the global north, and it's picking up responses to just transition issues that were appropriate in the global north. So we're going to need to kind of think through the kinds of tasks that we give AI to make sure that it responds to context much better than it will be done if it's just left to its own devices. The second one is around complexity. I think here AI is really good. As Vlad said, it can read across many studies. It can provide summaries. It can collate enormous amounts of data across huge areas, complex data sets. And so I think that there's a lot of value there in AI. The challenge comes in the contested nature of this work. So what happens when there are different viewpoints, different perspectives, and there as evaluators, I think that we're going to need to work really hard with evaluation approaches like critical realism that bring forward a kind of critical orientation, that develop the critical thinking of evaluators so that as they do the evaluations, they're thinking critically, and that we build critical theory. The last one I want to touch on is the notion of emergence, and I may come back to this. But as things change very quickly, a lot of evaluation work has been done looking backwards. In other words, we've done things like what has worked, what did work. I think that we're going to need to do a lot more evaluative work that has a futures perspective and ask questions like what will work, for whom, in this context, and why. And if we start to bring that futures perspectives to our evaluations, then I think that we've got a chance of designing in kind of preferable or preferred futures rather than kind of heading towards what is a probable future, which is not where we want to go. So just to say that I think that, and that is creative work. It's going to take a lot of people in a room discussing these things rather than a big AI piece of work that is very good at consolidated what has happened to date. So yeah, those are some initial thoughts. Happy to come back to others.
Thank you, Mike. Those was a nice 4 C's: the complexity, the context, the critical thinking, and then the forward-looking sort of creativity. Yeah, the 4 C's that I took away from that. Thank you. I'm going to turn now to you, Anupam, because I know you've been dabbling a little bit with AI in the evaluations at the GEF. Could you tell us a little bit about your experience in applying AI to evaluations in the GEF? And what was that wow moment, you know, that sort of light bulb moment in terms of the traditional challenges that you found that you could overcome by using AI? Thanks.
Thank you, Debbie, for the question. So we at the GEF Independent Evaluation Office have been using AI for almost a decade. It just more recently that AI has become a big word in the light of the development in the generative AI side of things. So we have used AI for both qualitative as well as quantitative analysis. So on the qualitative side, the traditional AI, for instance, was limited. We're using natural language processing and those kind of algorithms, which were very limited because of the complexity of human communication. So, for instance, if you use a double negative in common parlance, it's a positive, but you know the traditional machine learning algorithms or AI wouldn't identify it as such. So there were a lot of problems. So we confined it to mostly looking at the social media response or analyzing the Twitter data in terms of our outreach and who is doing what, who is engaging, and where we can do better. So for those kind of analytics, and a little bit on the text analytics as well, but it was very limited. Where we had huge success was using geospatial analysis. We all know that interventions happen somewhere. There's a location where it is happening. And once we know what is happening and how it has changed over a period of time in the light of intervention, it opens a whole new world for us evaluators to ask questions on the relevance, on efficiency, on effectiveness, on sustainability. So even after the project has closed, what is going there, whether the intervention or the activities or the benefits continue. So the geospatial analysis has enabled us to ask those questions. The challenge with using geospatial data is this is a big data. The more you have it, the less you can do with it. And in our field, in evaluation, we are always time constrained. We have to be more timely than perfect. So perfect is not the enemy of the good, as it is being said. So what AI has done there is has enabled us to analyze these huge chunk of data in more efficient way. In it takes much less time to analyze those data sets. So we're talking about billions of data points, which when I was in graduate schools, only few labs like Google or Amazon and some really big professors were able to conduct these analysis. But now anyone with a basic understanding can analyze it. You don't even need huge computational infrastructure, because that was also a really big challenge. Now there are cloud-based IDEs, cloud-based services that you can rent very cheaply. So this has enabled us to mainstream geospatial analysis in our evaluation. So a lot of evaluation findings or evidence is coming from geospatial analysis, of course, backed by other evaluation evidence streams, such as interviews or field visits, but it all works together very well in a I would say, in a multidisciplinary framework or a multi-method framework. And the evidence that geospatial analysis provides is very transparent. It can be replicated and repeated. So it's aiding in the transparency of our work. Now comes Gen AI. So there are two ways to look around it. One, what it has done to what we are already doing. So we were doing data analysis. We were doing geospatial analysis using traditional AI, deep learning algorithms. What it has done is the analysis remains the same. It's just become more efficient. What would take weeks or months' time can be done within hours or even minutes. So if I had to scrap a website of all the information, all the documents relevant to an evaluation, I remember it would take me a week to write, say, 5,000 lines of code. And I had to update one of the code because the website had changed and they had switched to JavaScript. It essentially took me 15 minutes to fix that. And I must confess, I wouldn't have done it without one of the GPTs, because I don't even have domain knowledge of some of the areas which I needed to figure out. So it's helping with routine work, but it's made it very, very efficient. So it's, as Vlad mentioned, it's helping us dealing with the complexity. It's helping us across evaluation stages. And that includes designing, literature survey, synthesis of evidence, finding the evidence gap during implementation. Is helping us with data analysis. So using the same data, your Excel data or geospatial data, but now we are using AI models to do that, which is very much faster. It can write code for you. It can analyze data. It can write reports for you so that you can save time doing other work, where humans excel and AI hasn't caught up yet. And finally, I would also like to share the last stage, which is the dissemination. So there also we have some practical examples in terms of the communication and knowledge management products. The images, editing images have become much easier and cost efficient. The videos, we are using some of the AI models to produce the videos or even fix the videos. Earlier, if you shoot in a low light situation in a village, you couldn't use that video for professional purpose. Now AI can help you fix that. We have almost stopped paying the voice artist, and I mean, there are ethical concerns, but I would mention that if you watch one of our latest video, you will hear someone narrate whose voice is very similar to Sir David Attenborough, but it's AI, and it has intonations of a human. You can't tell that it's not human. So we are saving a lot of, I would say, crucial funding for other work, for other evaluative work, and so it's very, very helpful across the evaluation process, and we continue to explore this space together with our other partners and with the other development in this space, because this is very rapidly changing field itself. I mean, AI is not just one thing. There are so many things. It's an ecosystem. So we continue to see it as a dynamic learning process. There's no end to it. We just need to leverage it to our maximum benefit. And that's our approach. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience, Anupam. It sounds like a really dynamic learning experience with lots of benefits and efficiencies and transparency. I think you said ability to chomp through a lot of data. And I guess that also gives you more time to take on more evaluations, now that AI is doing a lot of your work. I'd like to turn to Martin, because I know that the Green Climate Fund has also been doing some work, I think, on AI in evaluations. Have you had any eureka moments, or have you faced any challenges, as you're using AI in your evaluations?
Thank you, Debbie. So I'll outline 3 ways that we've utilized AI in our evaluative work, and then just offer an aha moment within the unit. So firstly, we've used AI to improve our data sets for impact evaluations and for some of our corporate evaluations. So the predictive nature of AI helps us to fill in missing values within data sets. And so that's been a shortcut, and it's improved the accuracy of those missing values. Secondly, within the evaluation unit, we conduct evidence reviews. So these assess effect sizes and also the landscape of causal studies, mainly experimental and quasi-experimental studies, across different areas such as transformational change or just transition or water sector interventions. So within evidence reviews, there are key ways that AI can improve and deliver efficiency gains. So the first, the main one you could say, is in the screening. So when you check academic databases, grain material sources, you may well pull in 5,000, 8,000, 13,000 studies. But then through different online platforms such as Epi Reviewer, you then start doing the abstract and title and abstract screening. So based on the inclusion-exclusion criteria for the evidence review, you manually run through the first 10% of those studies. But then based on those inclusion-exclusion criteria, the platform Epi Reviewer then reorders the remaining 90% in terms of the relevance to your inclusion criteria. So this delivers a substantial efficiency gain. Those studies that have a low probability of inclusion are not screened, and this speeds up the pace at which we can deliver the evidence reviews, which helps GCF programming. I think the third way that we use AI is common to everyone, and that's in terms of synthesizing information. And here I want to just offer the experience of the unit, comparing two synthesis products we've completed, one for the readiness evaluation and one for the indigenous peoples evaluation. So the readiness evaluation was conducted about 2 years ago, and then we approached it in a more manual approach. So an econometrician extracted sentences, paragraphs from our existing evaluation reports using R, and then we conducted thematic coding to conduct the to deliver the synthesis, and this went forward into the report to the board. So 2 years later, we're tasked by delivering the same product, and this time on Indigenous people's evaluation, and we looked at not evaluation reports but case studies, and we were quite stretched for time. And a new colleague who had no experience of AI, but a good evaluator, was tasked with the work. So the colleague delivered the work within a week. And how did he do it? Well, first of all, he used ChatGPT to create the Python script. He piloted that, and then he extracted the relevant paragraphs from the case 50 country case study. So then he used ChatGPT to synthesize it into a 5-page document. So this was and the quality of it was accepted by the evaluation lead. So that particular colleague, evaluator with zero previous experience, delivered that product in you could say a timely fashion. So that was my aha moment. Over to you, Debbie.
Thank you, Martin. That's very interesting that you use it in evidence reviews. And, you know, I'm also a little worried because are we giving too much power to AI? Is there a risk here? I mean, do we know what we're doing? Does AI have a role in decision making? I mean, this worries me slightly, right? Is AI going to determine my pay next time? You know, I hope not. Anyhow, so Vlad, can I turn to you and ask you about some of these ethical considerations that should be taken into account when using artificial intelligence? How do you think we should handle it? Should there be guidelines or control, or just better, you know, understanding and training of people in the use of AI? How do we build trust, and how do we get around some of these risks and issues? And then after you answer this, I'm going to turn to people here and see if you have any questions. So please do keep them ready. Vlad.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie, for your question, which is extremely important. And maybe before I start answering, it's crucial to say what exactly we consider an ethical consideration. To me, the most important thing is that whatever AI generates, it's fair and unbiased. So no matter what we do, we have to make sure that this is the criteria under which AI operates. And then the question that comes is how exactly we ensure that. I think we heard in some of the previous interventions, and I also mentioned about biases in my intervention. AI can be biased, and AI can be biased because it is trained by a particular person or a particular group of people with particular information to deliver a certain responses. So it's basic. Think about this. It's like a kid. When you have your own kid who is very small, you basically teach your kid to do things in a particular way. And as the kid grows, that affects the behavior of the kid. And it will be very different from the way another kid brought up in a different environment to react. AI basically functions in the same way. If you have two different AI tools and you train them in two different ways, they're going to give you different biases. So you have to ensure when you train your AI tools, when you feed in the information, you have to ensure that that bias is controlled. And some AI tools are already advanced in that area. And I think we have all heard of cases when organizations that manage AI tools, when they identify that there is a particularly strong bias that actually causes a problem, they actually change their algorithm in order to make sure that that bias is removed from there. And that bias can be language bias, regional bias, racial bias. There's so many different ways to introduce those bias. So we need to make sure that these are taken care of. Now, how they can be taken care of, I talk about, of course, training. The other thing is the guidelines. So many institutions at the moment come up with ethical guidelines on the use of AI. The World Bank, where 3 of our funds are hosted at the moment, also has come up with a similar guidance. So it is important to put down what exactly we want to control for in order to ensure this fairness and unbiasedness for the use of AI. And the third very important point is the uses of AI. Again, keep in mind that AI is a machine, and I'll keep on repeating this in many answers. And at the moment, I think on the average, AI behaves like a junior analyst. So when you have a junior analyst, that may help you, that may not help you so much. So it really depends on, well, some AI tools are much more advanced. So probably they're like consultant level, senior consultant level, but the average is still like, it requires supervision, it requires training. So the reason I'm telling you that in order to ensure the ethical use of AI, you also have to train all the users of AI, how exactly to use it, how to prompt it, and how to generate results that are going to be in line with the ethical norms that you establish. So let me stop here. This is my perspective, and over to you.
No, that's really interesting. Thank you. How to Train Your AI. Sounds like the title of a new movie, right? But also, I think, when you were talking about ethical norms and having institutions develop these norms, I mean, one thing that strikes me is that if each institution develops their own norms, at some point we need to have global agreement or, sort of governance on these things. Otherwise, we're just going to go in all different directions. So I guess that's something to keep in mind as we go forward. And I'm sure the study that the 4 units are doing are going to take this into consideration as well. Having said that, on that note, you've been listening to us very patiently. I'm going to ask if there are any questions from the audience. If you do have a question, could you please state your name and organization and then your question? Thank you. So great, I've got 2.
Hello, this is Shrey Goyal from Green Spider AI Paris. Have there been any discussions internally or in communication externally around the carbon footprint of AI tools themselves? And then how do you take that into account?
Thank you, Shrey. Thanks for that question. Did you direct that at any particular individual or, okay. So Anupam, yeah.
So thanks, Ray. This very important question. And so we do discuss because we are climate funds and climate footprint is a huge deal for us. So there are discussions around it. And we are thankfully not in the business of training LLMs, which mostly requires huge energy and water needs. So what we have been trying to do is first work with existing models and so that we are not training our own models. So we are not we are bound by the World Bank IT policy, and we have enterprise level AI available to us, and that includes most of the models. So we have access to those, and there's a IT policy behind it. There's not too much of guidance on using those. So it's more like, okay, there's energy consumption when you use Google search as well. The idea is not to use it as much as, just for random things and so constrain ourselves. So what we are trying to do is educate our users and our colleagues that use it optimally. We attempted building our own LLM or small language models, but then we gave it for various reasons also to confirm with the IT policy and also the data privacy needs. And in the long run, what we have figured out that the energy consumptions will of course reduce because some of these models are applicable to other areas also. And also the benefits that we achieve by routinely conducting the same thing again. So perhaps the benefit of using LLM would surpass the way we have been doing this traditionally. But we do discuss this off and on, and there are certain numbers floating around just to make our colleagues and our partners aware that there are implications if you just play with it too much. So use AI responsibly for various reasons, including energy consumption. So I hope that answers your question. Thanks.
Thanks, Shrey. I think we have a second one, Vlad.
Thank you. My name is Tangeni Chibute. I'm from NamPower, the Namibian power utility. This was a fascinating discussion, by the way. My question basically ranges around how well does AI capture context? And the reason I say this is we are busy doing a biomass power plant. We applied for 2 climate grants, which we received, were awarded. And one of the most pivotal parts on actually getting that grant was not what we wrote, because no matter how much we wrote and we tried to explain this bush encroachment problem, they could only understand it through the pictures we displayed or coming to Namibia and then understanding the national context. So how well does AI capture the context, especially in light of trying to do quick evaluations and not maybe be able to manage that if you're mainly taking the text?
Great question. Thank you so much. I'm going to turn to, I think, Mike first, and then see if Martin also wants to chip in here. Mike?
No, thank you. I think, context is a term that has many different facets to it. So certainly things like geospatial context, the ability to represent something visually, I think that AI is going to be brilliant at it. I think it's going to be able to take enormous data sets, find a way of representing them. I mean, you can ask AI to generate images, all sorts of stuff. So in that sense, I think it's going to be great. In terms of context, in the people that live in those areas, and they're going to be different people with different interests, different kind of aspirations in their lives, I think AI is not going to be as good at understanding that aspect of context. And so we're going to need to still get out into the field. We're going to need to talk to people. We're going to need to understand what their aspirations are, different aspirations. We're going to need to critique those aspirations, say which ones are valid in this particular context, given these changes being caused by climate. And I think that evaluation doesn't try to just generate a picture, doesn't attempt just to kind of explain or represent the world. It also tries to feed in information for good decision making to change the world. And therefore, as we deal with context, we're also going to need to deal with what kind of world do we want. And I'm not sure that we want AI to tell us what kind of world we want. It's a people decision that. So yeah, be careful about where you put AI in terms of even something like context. But certainly some great strengths, some things I think we should keep and make ethical decisions ourselves.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Mike. So just I'll answer the question slightly obliquely, but we're accountability units within climate funds, and we also need to be held to account, and we also need to make sure that our evaluation approaches are replicable. And so in that sense, we always start the evaluation process with consultations with stakeholders, and also with the completion of a approach paper or protocol. And this is across corporate evaluations and other reviews as well. So in terms of the consultation with stakeholders, I think it's critical to be very open and transparent around the use of AI within the evaluation, and to solicit the views of stakeholders and about how they believe, or to solicit their input in terms of their approach to this this particular topic in question. I think there are also wider practices that evaluation units can do in terms of approach papers. So, and that also leads us towards also evaluation standards that we have within the unit. So within approach papers for each evaluation, the view in the independent evaluation into the Green Climate Fund is that we need to be very clear and transparent around how we're utilizing, so full disclosure, how we're utilizing AI within our evaluation practices. AI provides input. As Mike was saying, there are many other forms of input to our evaluations through our interviews, often reading between the lines in terms of some of the interview data you get, the focus groups, the workshops you conduct, the data analysis you do, the geospatial work. And so if we treat the input that we get from AI as yet another form of data, and that we also treat it in the same way as we do with other forms of data. So in terms of triangulation, in terms of ensuring the validation of that data, the verification of that data, then it becomes another valid source of data. And So really, I suppose it's a plea for transparency, openness, and full disclosure and widespread consultation with stakeholders in terms of how the large language models are being utilized.
Thank you, Martin. I'll take one more question if there is one.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon already, right? Really nice panel. I'm Barbara from Brazilian think tank, and I would like to know like concrete examples, like one project that you would pick up to bring here, like it can be a positive one, and it also can be like a failure. Like we used AI for that, and specifically in that point, we had to abandon an AI or something like that.
Thank you, Barbara. A good question. I'm going to see who in the panel wants to answer that. Anupam, yeah.
Thank you, Barbara. That's a very interesting question. I have to tell you that the AI is evolving at the pace faster than we can think about. So I'll just give you an example where it didn't work. I was very excited about a new model, Gemini, and that had just come up. They had updated their model, so that means working with 1 million tokens. So the context window was much larger, and I was working on illegal wildlife trade. And I wanted it, and also we have to understand, and this links to the earlier question, that in terms of context, you have to know what the AI model is and what it is trained on. So the Gemini is a little more advanced in terms of timeline. ChatGPT is only trained on older data sets compared to Gemini. So that's why Gemini was the choice of the model. And I wanted to find this is scoping part. So just random, how many projects are dealing with illegal wildlife trade, and what are the experience coming out of those projects? And out of 100 projects that it highlighted, at least 40 of them were fake. It was hallucinating. And it made up the title so well, it made up the summary so well. And after some time, and that time, hallucination was, I mean, they were discussing it, but not within the evaluation community, more in the computer science and people who work on LLM. They knew about it, but not so much at our end. And then we realized this is not an area we want to go or venture, because there are a lot unknown. It's got much better. And where it's got much better is now within the World Bank system, we have our own AI system, which uses ChatGPT, OpenAI, and it is driven by the data, internal data, all the internal data, and some data sets are flagged, so they are not publicly available, but it takes care of that. And it's trained on our own data so that it has more information, and there are ways to constrain a model to only look into a certain kind of document. So AI has evolved a lot. So now it's much better. But so here also we have improved. And as I talked today, yesterday, Google launched its foundation model on geospatial analysis. So it's moving very fast. I'll just give you another example. And this links to her question, what was the aha moment, right? So this is on segmentation. So for instance, we to mitigate climate change and also adapt to it, there's a lot of reforestation projects, like where you plant forest. And as an evaluator, I want to know what is the result of those interventions. So I had to identify how much forest did increase in the light of intervention. So previously, it would take me days to set this up, like downloading the data, putting it together, cleaning it, writing a code to identify those trees. Now it can be done in 15 seconds. And the beauty of it is, and we teach a course in one of the evaluation organizations. And there I demonstrated this can be done in 15 minutes by anyone, regardless of their technical skill. The code is available on Google Colab. So this is the aha moment. This is the beauty, and this is the effectiveness. So to summarize, there are a couple of similar experiences and examples, but I think these two demonstrate the frustration with the AI, but also the Eureka moment we have had with AI.
Yeah, Barbara, thank you. I just want to give a quick example as well. I mean, we use AI quite a lot to summarize evaluations. So as a way of kind of communicating them, making them accessible. So you often have a really good evaluation done by excellent evaluators. You summarize it. So to write an executive summary or something, it's important that they check it so that nothing kind of else has been introduced. The aha moment for me was that people will come back and say, this is way too complex. We don't understand it. Put into ChatGPT the requirement, make this accessible to a 12-year-old, and you'll be amazed at how much your colleagues think your writing has improved. So just as a quick thought there.
Great. I'm sure the 12-year-olds out there will be very happy to hear that as well. Okay, so in the interests of being fair, I did ask ChatGPT also last night. I said, I have a panel this morning. What question can I ask the panel? Yeah. I mean, I've asked you, I've asked ChatGPT, I must be fair, right? So the question that ChatGPT gave to me is, where do you see the opportunities for AI in helping to scale up climate action? So Mike, I'm going to turn to you and see if you can answer ChatGPT.
Yeah, opportunities. I see opportunities and risks, actually. I see enormous opportunities, as we've all said, I think, in working across very big areas. So, for example, the one that I'm very keen to do is to look across all of our evaluative work across the 4 funds and to look at particular themes. So what have we been doing around something like transformational change? We're trying to understand transformational change better together as 4 funds. It would be really great to do an evaluation across that. And I think that AI would be very good at doing that piece of work. I think the risk is that we start to slip back into a kind of value-free orientation to evaluation. We were always told at the beginning that we needed external experts to do good objective evaluations, then we would have excellent evaluations. And more evaluators have been pushing against that for years and years, saying, no, actually, this is a value-based piece of cultural work. It's a societal piece of work, and therefore we need society involved in it. And I think we just need to make sure that we don't slip back as it becomes a little bit kind of beguiling to do all of this big data set work, to start to ignore people again, and the social aspect, trying to change the world and bring about positive change in the context of a real climate crisis.
Yeah, so I think I'm hearing we need more evaluations. We can have better evaluations. They should be inclusive evaluations, but also to spur climate action. These shouldn't lie on a shelf. They should be written for 12-year-olds so that they can inform policy, right? Something like that. Okay, good. Vlad, the study that we have now, I mean, Mike's been talking about the need for the 4 units to harmonize and bring things together. How can we collectively take this work forward and harness the power of AI in across the 4 funds so that we're not repeating, we're being efficient across the 4 funds. We're not doing the same things differently in different but we're sort of coming together. What's your thinking on how we take this forward in a collaborative way so it's more efficient?
Thank you, Debbie, for this question. And it's a very important one because it basically shows our joint strength. Well, one thing is to understand how exactly we want to, which tools and how exactly we want to use them across the fund. So we saw a number of examples of things that can be done. So let's explore the use of AI in more detail, pick up a few examples and study them forward. So the study that was presented to you, it was just a scoping study. You saw a lot of examples. I think one thing that we can do from now on is pick up a few things where we want to do an in-depth research and pilot them and understand how our junior analysts can actually become a real analyst who can provide us a powerful insight. So that is one thing. Another thing that is very important is to think collectively how we can build the capacity for the use of AI across the evaluation units and across the funds. I think this is something that we need to focus even more as we move forward, because at the end of the day, AI is a human-controlled tool. We are those who have to control it. So we need to make sure that we all have at least the minimum skill set and understanding as everybody else. And another recommendation, another thing to take forward, and this is something we can do in the medium term, is think about guidelines. UW commented that we may end up with a fragmentation of guidelines across the board, and I think that is actually a real issue and a real possibility. At the same time, we see that UNEC is the United Nations Evaluation Group. They're coming with their own ethical guidelines, and all of us are members in one form or another of that group, so we can see what is happening in those organizations where we are members of, also where what the organizations that host us are looking into, and come up with something that is. Now, one important thing that where we can have a value, and this is this thing. All the guidelines that appear at the moment, they're either about ethical use of AI or ethical use of AI in evaluations. I think our value added can be the ethical use of AI in climate change evaluation. So we also put that added element in order to move it forward. So I think there is a lot of work that all of us can do as we move forward. There are things that we should do immediately, like the pilots, but then move forward with the other elements. And one last comment from my side, which I think is also important. We need to revisit the work that we are doing. So it's like a learning cycle. So I think regularly we have to get together and share in a similar fashion as we are doing today the examples of what has worked well, and learn from that and see how we can change also our approach to AI, application of AI. It's a great opportunity, but we need to also manage that opportunity carefully. Thank you.
Well, those are great points. Pilots, let's do joint pilots. Let's think about capacities. Let's think about learning, and let's think about common guidelines. So we're not we're doing this in the most efficient way, and we're all learning as we go along, right? Nobody has the answer as yet. Martin, I'd like to turn to you actually, because this point of capacities has come up, and Vlad was asking earlier, challenging us to say, is AI going to take our jobs? I mean, so what would you say to people who worry that AI might be taking our jobs and might replace us? How can the evaluation profession evolve to stay ahead of the curve, so that we can shape AI and not be sort of victim to AI in a sense? We're actually part of shaping it and creating. What do we need to do, Martin? What's your take on this?
Okay, thank you, Debbie. And so is AI going to take our jobs? Well, I think this has been raised on the panel. Again, it provides inputs, but the decision making, the evaluative judgment that you make in terms of the data that you've generated and is relevant to the evaluation, that decision making needs to be made by evaluators. So AI is going to enhance our evaluations. It's going to improve our evaluations. It's going to make our evaluations much faster. It's going to mean we can do more, we can do it better, and we can match, and we can try and keep up with the scale of climate ambition, and we can and we can keep in touch with the scale of climate finance that's needed to tackle the climate emergency. So in fact, AI is going to be indispensable to us. If we're going to evaluate the portfolio of climate projects, which is going to be upon us in the coming months and years. I think the one takeaway perhaps I'd like to raise is just in terms of the uncertainties around AI output. So perhaps we could try and learn from how we tackle uncertainties with other inputs to our evaluations. So for example, when we draw a sample, we use confidence intervals to show the degree of confidence that we have in terms of the sample mean compared to the true population mean. So we know there's about a 90% chance that the sample mean lies within 2 standard deviations of the true population mean. How can we apply that kind of principle to the output from AI? Another example, so when we complete systematic reviews, for example, we apply a critical appraisal scorecard to assess the robustness of different studies. So we look at study design, confounding factors, intervention alterations, missing data, bias in outcomes, bias in results. So can we not apply a similar rating scale to AI output in terms of low risk of bias, moderate, high, critical risk of bias by two different independent reviewers, and any disagreements is arbitrated by a third party? So I think there are ways that we can learn from other approaches to uncertainty to help us have more reliability around our use of AI in as one of many inputs for our evaluations.
Thank you, Martin. I think you've touched on a very important point about uncertainty and how we navigate that. The other thing I think is about data availability and access. And I'd like to turn to Anupam really to try and see, how do we bridge this asymmetry in capacities? There are some people who have the means to be able to invest in AI and take that forward and have the data. But yet there are others, there might be countries or institutions that do not have that capacity. How do we make sure that we're all traveling in the same direction at the same pace? How can we bridge that gap? Anupam.
Thank you, Debbie. And as a former lecturer at the university, I can completely relate with this question. So I would start with the AI literacy. So I think there's a huge need for basic AI literacy, and we have a role to play. And what you see here in the form of this panel and the form of this study is a small attempt towards it. But I think we need to do more of it. And we need to build inclusive AI ecosystem that is not confined to the experts, not confined to the evaluators, but is easily available and accessible to all our stakeholders, and more so to marginalized people or people who do not have access to some of these systems. And thankfully, the AI tools yield themselves towards that. It kind of democratizes some of the data and analytics because compared to the traditional system, I'll just give you an example of our organization. So this is a kind of I would say a milestone for our organization, that we just launched the AI-based search system where you have access to all the information that is needed from the Climate Fund. Imagine a week back or a month back, getting those information was even difficult for people who have worked in the system for 10 years. And now it's democratized. So anyone with access to a computer, a browser, which is also challenging in some situation, but we are moving towards that, and AI can make that information in a very, I would say, easily consumable way. And as Mike was saying, that for someone who is a 5th grader or a 12-year age, so you have all that available, and AI can help you bridge that gap. But the gist here is that we need to build inclusive AI ecosystem where there is a transparency about our own work, that where we are using AI, what part of the evaluation is fed by AI, what are the limitations, and how can anyone replicate and repeat those analysis. So providing them with those tools and with the AI literacy that is needed. So essentially what we need to do is to humanize and socialize those bits and bytes that we get from the AI system. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, thanks, Anupam. It seems like, I'm worried because I'm thinking, oh, I have to rush out and get these skills, but I don't know where to go, and it's going to be expensive, and where do I go, and what skills do I get? So I think, I think I need to worry less perhaps, because maybe, maybe the pace of AI development will will not be as fast as I'm thinking. I don't know. It would be good to see if anybody has any views on that in the panel. Do I need to rush out and get some new skills immediately, Mike?
Yeah, Debbie, I think you don't have to worry much more. I think that AI is going to move much faster than any of us are predicting at the moment. I mean, somebody once described to me ChatGPT as having the capability of a high school child, and GPT-3 having the ability of a high school child, GPT-4 having the ability of a master's student, and I think that the next iteration is going to be even higher than that. So I think that we are going to need to develop the skills. So the trick for us though is not to hand over to AI, not to kind of say, well, it's getting so smart it can do the job. I think it's to kind of continue to question how it is that the technology is being built. In other words, what sits behind the decision making, what data is it drawing on, and those are skills that we need to learn. So I don't think we have to keep up with the AI intelligence itself. We need to work out what is it doing in the background, so that we're able to bring a kind of critical eye to that, and make sure that we don't let it make decisions for the way that we live as humanity, that go against the kind of ethical principles that we hold.
Thank you, Mike. I think that's a very powerful message. Don't let AI take control. I mean, we still need to be the master of it and determine how it can help us, help humanity make better choices for ourselves and for the planet. On that note, I'm going to turn once again to the audience here and to see if there's anybody who has any follow-up questions for the panel. Yes.
So a couple of questions actually. My name is Varun Kashyap. I come from India. We work on beekeeping. Couple of points. I think one is, how do you see the use of AI for pre-evaluation, so to say, before, like the organizations coming to you for funds and submitting a proposal, how do you kind of use AI, or how they can use AI to assess or evaluate the, what they have to submit to you even before the proposal actually is finally submitted, right? So kind of finding a match between the mandates that you have, the amount of funds that you're giving. My other question is that, let's assume, let's believe that climate problems do not have existing solutions and we need to innovate. And a lot of AI today is based on, what already exists. So how do you see AI being able to evaluate innovative solutions? Would we reach there, or would we see, as an outcome of that innovative solutions are kind of almost, there is a bias and they will be eliminated from the evaluation, and we would continue to kind of probably look for incremental improvement, not necessarily a transformative improvement, more on innovations. Thank you.
Thank you, Varun. Who on the panel would like to answer that? Vlad, you want to have a go at maybe the pre-screening, and then Martin perhaps after that? Yeah.
Thank you for the really nice question. I think there are several aspects of that, and how exactly the screening will be conducted is more up to the secretariats of our organization, because we're on the evaluation side. But some potential areas where I see the use of AI is screening for consistency of the information, whether the information is correct or not, because whenever proposals arrive, there is always like cross-checking of the information, whether it represents whether it represents the reality. Another aspect, which is climate change related aspect, I think it's important. For example, we are in the Adaptation Fund, so we fund adaptation projects. So we basically looked at climate vulnerabilities. So AI can help actually analyze the information from the climate models and see whether the proposed solutions actually are following the climate model or not, or whether we are moving in a different direction. So this is one area where I can actually see a very strong role for AI. So this is what was the second question about? Yeah. So this is actually a very important question, and this is the question about humans versus AI. My personal thinking is still that innovation should be what humans do, and AI should help move that innovation forward. So we as humans should give the ideas and help AI put these ideas into reality. Otherwise, the scenario that you described in your intervention is something that can materialize, that AI will be constrained with certain biases and actually would not lead to innovation. But we can use AI to see how some innovation in climate change can actually be put into practice. And we can also apply that thinking in the way we conduct evaluations as well. Thank you.
Martin, do you want to, and then maybe we'll let Anupam answer.
So thank you for the question, Varun. Very little to add really. But just to say that that's clearly a secretariat function. But other accountability units do use AI, for example, in screening documentation. So other accountability units conduct, for example, proactive integrity reviews, and they then use AI in terms of the relevance and sort of control measures that are needed, and then those that helps them to prioritize their resources in terms of assessing particular projects for potential review. So that kind of screening that you highlighted is being conducted within the GCF, within another accountability unit. The degree to which it's being conducted by the Secretariat, that's not I'm not able to comment on that. Thank you for the question.
I just wanted to add on the second question in terms of innovation. So one of the powerful aspect of AI is the predictive part actually. And one, like any statistical model, one can constrain the AI to look into the outliers where the innovations are likely to happen. And the reason being that whatever we have been doing, if it was working, then we don't need transformational change. We don't need to rethink about our model. So the AI is sitting on so much of information that as a human analyst, it's very difficult to synthesize and even be aware. Mike was mentioning about the complexity of the climate evaluations or complexity of getting evidence on climate action. And this is where AI would be very helpful. So you just need to look at innovative solution within the outliers of things that haven't been tried or that are just coming up or that hold a little bit of promise. So it's quite possible to look for innovation, and I'm sure a lot of innovation would be coming out of the analytics from AI. Still human driven because we are the one who control the AI. I mean, humans develop AI, so we shouldn't be making any mistake. It's just that working with AI, asking the right question, feeding the right data, using the right model, and together with AI, there's a lot of possibilities for innovative climate work. Just stop.
Yeah, I just want to share an experience of being in a meeting recently in which one person presented on how they were using AI to generate their proposals, beekeeping proposal or whatever it might be. And the next presentation was on how these funds are using AI to assess the proposals. And the question then arose, well, is there a conflict of interest if AI is both generating the proposal and assessing them? And I think there is, if it's the same AI that's using the same kinds of thinking patterns to kind of say, this is what innovation looks like. And then that same AI is asked to assess whether this is what innovation looks like. So I think that we really need to understand what is going in behind. And Anupam's point around what we teach the AI is absolutely critical here. So essentially, if we're looking for innovation, it's not just any innovation, it's innovation that will lead us to our preferred future, given the climate crisis, the social issues, the economic issues that we face. That preferred future, I think, is for us as humans to decide. Then we can teach the AI to look for that in innovative proposals. And I think that that's the kind of process that we need to be engaging in, deciding what it is that we want, teaching the AI to look and get better at finding those sorts of things, and then plowing through this huge amount of data to find it.
Great, thank you. Thanks for all the questions. Is there any other burning question? We have room for one more. No burning question. Okay. Oh, there's one. Okay, great. Last question of the day.
Wonderful panel. Thank you so much. I want to ask a question regarding startups, especially that works in AI or tech startups. Are there certain frameworks of funding towards startups or certain areas that works in AI innovations?
So the question is about AI in startups, yeah? Yeah. Who would like to? Vlad? Okay, maybe we'll get Vlad to answer this.
I would just start answering and maybe my colleagues can add up. But my understanding is that it's actually becoming a very hot topic among startups. And in the presentation, I just gave one example of a startup that just approached me the other day and said, okay, we can set up for you a chatbot that can conduct all the interviews for your evaluations, can also conduct all the surveys, collect the data, and then analyze that data and give you back the result. So there are startups in the field of AI. There are startups that are actually in the field of AI and evaluations as well. So this is a very hot topic from what I can already see.
Great, thank you. In the interests of time, we're coming to the end of our session. You've been a wonderful panel and a great audience. Thank you very much. But I'm going to ask one final round, I guess. Any final thoughts from you on AI generally, or comments on future directions on the potential applications within your own organizations? It would be helpful to have just one round. So I'm going to start this way and go to Mike from SIF, and then move to Anupam from the GEF, to Martin Prowse from the GCF, and then to Vladislav Arnaudu from the Adaptation Fund's AF-TERG. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. I think I've said a fair bit already. So maybe just one final thought is that I think that we're going to need to interrogate and evaluate three key areas as we go into working with AI. The first one is to kind of interrogate the data, and AI is really good at that. I think we can work with data to do that. I think secondly, we're going to need to interrogate the technology itself. So we're going to need to understand what sits behind the AI and how it's making kind of decisions, what it's spitting out. And thirdly, I think we're going to need to interrogate very carefully how we as human beings use both the technology and the data as they come together, and use it in a way to work towards the kinds of futures that we would like to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So we at the GEF.io are taking a multi-pronged approach, which is short-term, medium-term, and long-term. So in short-term, what we are doing, we are using all the AI tools available to us while being careful and cautious about the bad sides of AI or things where AI doesn't work really well. So that's one. And so we are together with our traditional methods, we are integrating AI, we are experimenting with AI so that we know what works for us in integrating AI into our work. And then we are also upgrading our staff in terms of hiring more data scientists and also working on the AI literacy. So we have a working group which is part of our work program on AI, and we have recruited few champions and also invited external experts to help us right through the AI ecosystem. And then in long term, we are working with the World Bank IT system so that we can come up with a more customized solution within the enterprise level infrastructure that we already have available. So we're not creating another platform. So it's more efficient. Also, it confirms with the IT policy of the organization. And then we keep on experimenting with various types of AI, and then collaborating with various organizations on AI, and also with our partners. And this is a good example of one such collaboration moving forward. So I'll stop here. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you, Anupam. And so the takeaway I'd like to offer is just in terms of the evaluation function in the Green Climate Fund. So our evaluation policy was only completed 3 years ago, and we've got associated evaluation standards. So the relevance of AI to our evaluations is such that it would be, I feel, and this is a personal opinion, that we would need to integrate the transparent and open approach to AI within our evaluation policy, and also associated standards, valuation standards, to make sure that we do meet best practice and ensure that our use of large language models is consistent across the funds and also is open to all stakeholders and the board as well, to assess and reflect on. Thank you. Glad.
Thank you. So I'll talk about three things that we are doing on the AF-TERG side. So one piece of work that we're doing on a regular basis is actually synthesis of the final evaluations of the fund. So we have done two synthesis reports up to now using human consultant. I think the third synthesis, of course, we are going to do exactly the same way, but we want to test how we can use AI to conduct that work with the human supervision. So that is one area where we believe that AI can add a very strong contribution. The other piece of work, again, is something that we have started doing a couple of years ago, are ex post evaluations. And from this year, we have started a pilot of ex post in fragile and conflict affected states. So these are areas where you have issues with access, need to analyze also satellite images, incomplete data sets. And this is another area where together with the consultant leading that work, we can use AI and see how we can improve the results of the evaluation. The final but not less important piece of work, we're just starting the comprehensive evaluation of the fund and also the midterm review of the MTS. So this involves reviews of large sets of portfolio data. And we also see that AI can help us in getting insights from that data and in the analysis. So it's very exciting what lies ahead. And on our side, we are really looking forward to grabbing this opportunity and using it into our advantage, same as the colleagues from the other funds, and of course, continuing working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Vlad, and my panelists. Thank you, audience. You've been wonderful. I hope it's been an enriching discussion for you. And I'd like to thank again my panel of experts, Mike Ward, Anupam Anand, Martin Prowse, and Vladislav Arnaudu for a very interesting and engaging, insightful discussion on the use of AI. And I wish you all the best in your work as you take this forward. Thank you.